So today I have with me Daniel Dolce, Italy. He's a fashion designer from New York City. He went to Washington College in Charleston, Maryland.
Or Chestertown.
Okay.
Right, that's okay.
I have Charleston on my mind. I'm going to go there next week,
you
okay?
Are.
And he majored in history and minored in English and political science. He also went to law school for a year and a half before he quit. He hated it. So since then, he has been a designer for Oscar de la Renta. He's been the vice president of the largest buying offices in the U.S., and he's been a vice president of two of the largest department stores in the world. In 2007, he started his fashion design called Daniel Dolce Italy, and since then, he's also been on many television shows, advertising his book, marketing his book, including Oprah. So, everyone wants to know, are you related to Dolce & Gabbana?
Well, here's the story. Our grandmothers were both from Potenza in southern Italy, and I am told anecdotally that they were sisters. My family, however, my part of the family, I guess, moved to Firenze, and then from Firenze came to the United States in 1898. And then my family was what the French would call petite nobilité, meaning a small noble. So when they got to the United States, my grandfather discovered that men had to work in the United States. So they went back to Italy, back to Florence, Firenze. And my grandmother then said, shape up or ship out. So they came back again. One of my aunts was born on the ship coming over. And so I am told that I am related to him. I think I'm a better designer, but he makes more money than I do. So that's kind of the story.
So what sparked your interest in fashion?
Well, my father died when I was a very young boy. I was 6 years old. My mother then opened up a women's better apparel shop in the town where we lived, and I basically grew up in her store. But I was never really that interested in women's wear. I was much more interested in menswear because I am a man, and that's what I wear, although I worked in women's wear extensively, but I really preferred men's. And I just had a knack for kind of discovering, knowing what was going to sell. I had, within after I started my career, basically in 1970, I had a very meteoric rise in the industry because I had this uncanny ability to be able to figure out what was going to sell. So when I was the vice president and fashion director of the two largest buying offices in New York from 1973 to 1978, I kind of got this halo around me, so to speak, of, well, Donald knows what's going to sell, because Donald is my middle name, and that's what I've been called most of my life.
Well, yes, I call him Donald,
right,
okay?
Right. And I just got this reputation of knowing what was going to sell, and more often than not, I was right. And when I was wrong, I hid those mistakes under the rug real quick, and I went on to the next thing. So, yeah, that's basically how I got into it. I'm one of the very few executives, I think, in the business, even though I'm 70 years old now and basically retired, who has had a background both in design and merchandising and marketing. Very rarely do you find someone with all three sets of credentials within the business.
That's crazy. So in this day and age, you have to know social media in order to have your business grow. It's just so big in marketing. How do you make a business grow in a time when we didn't have social media at all back in the 80s,
Okay.
you know?
Well, even in the 70s when I was working in buying offices, the key to selling up until the internet was store distribution. We had many groups of major department stores in the United States, and the way that you grew your brand was through the distribution in both department stores and specialty stores. Remember, this was the era before Walmart, Target, TJ Maxx, Steinmart, Ross. This
Marshalls.
was before all those people. So everything was in what we would call conventional department stores. And the key was to get your product into a department store group. It could have been the May department stores, which are now long gone, Federated Department Stores, which is now Macy's, Allied Stores, which is now part of Macy's, Associated Dry Goods, all those people, those were major department store groups in the United States, and that's how you did it.
Okay. So he wrote a book back in the 80s called, can you see it? It's The
Consumer's Guide to Menswear.
Okay, good. I'm glad
Yeah.
he said it because I don't have it up here. So anyway, with this book, it got him interviews with AM Pittsburgh, the morning show. Can't remember the name of it anymore. That was
numerous ones.
That was in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Good Morning Washington D.C.
Yeah.
The People Are Talking of Baltimore, and he even got an interview with Oprah. So tell us, what did you write your book about?
It's called The Consumer's Guide to Menswear, How to Get the Most Value for Your Shopping Dollar. It's not a book about fashion at all. It's being able to look at a garment, and this one suit might be $199, one suit might be $1,099, another suit might be $5,099. What is it worth? What is the value of the product? I think one of the biggest challenges today, both in men's and women's, but particularly in men's, is being able to understand the price-value relationship of quality versus what it is sold for, and how much of that price is hype, and how much of it is reality. When I started my line in 2007, I wanted to be the opening price point of better, and I made sure that I was using the absolute best fabrics, the best construction, and wanted to ensure that that product was going to be at a price that specialty stores or better department stores would be able to sell effectively.
Okay.
That's the key, the price-value relationship. And that's what I did in the book. And the book is 35 years old, so much of it is out of date. I'm the first, in some ways I'm out of date. But at any rate, when I wrote the book, it got good reviews in the New York Times, Publishers Weekly, the American Library Association, and those are the three key reviews that a publisher looks for.
Okay, I was telling him for my book, I just did it all online. It's just the way to go in this day and age. So anyway, I've heard you talk several times about your interview with Oprah. Why don't you tell them about your interview with Oprah?
Well, this is going back to 1983. Her show at that time was called People Are Talking in Baltimore, which she hosted with Richard Scher. What I remember most about the interview was that in the green room, I was sitting there with a group of snake-handling evangelical Christians, and they had with them in the green room, in bags, water moccasins, copperheads, rattlesnakes, and I'm sitting there, what is this? What am I doing here? But at any rate, and they went on, I think, before me, I hope, because then they left. But so when I was on with Oprah, when you are on television, my publicist had said to me, Donald, we need 12 questions, and you have to have an answer, a 30-second answer, a 60-second answer, and a 120-second answer, because no one's going to read your book who's interviewing you, and you've got to be able to answer these questions. We're going to feed them the questions, and they'll ask you what they want. And that's exactly what I did. When Oprah was reading the questions, she would start on question number 2, and somehow her eyes would go down to question number 4. And the question didn't make a lot of sense. So during the break, I had a 12-minute segment, and I said, just read the question. I'll give you the answer. But she was very pleasant, very, very nice, and very, very personable. And I enjoyed working with her.
So we can say Oprah has probably improved her interviewing skills since that time.
I would say she has improved them much more so than I have, yes, without a doubt.
Okay. We'll take some questions here in a few minutes, so get your questions ready. So this year, Donald turned 70. I met him when he was 69, and for months he would always say he was going to die soon, and we would just laugh about it because no one has made it to or past the age of 70 in his family.
Correct.
So.
That's correct. Everyone has died at 70 or much younger, yes.
Of cancer, he says,
yep,
and then his mom had Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as ALS. Yes. So, as I say, when a person is successful, one of the most important things is like your health and your food and water. It's that bottom of that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You can't reach levels of success until you meet your basic needs. So health is so important to being successful, your energy level, having the motivation to do that. And so tell us, how has fitness played a part in your life?
I have worked out every day of my life, unless I was really ill, since age 25. So about 50 years of working out, approximately anywhere from 60 to 90 to 110 minutes a day. Now, at 70, I work out about 110 minutes every single day. I got into fitness in a strange way, however. As a child, I started getting very fat at age 8. When I was 16 years old, my waist was 38, and when I was 21, I weighed almost 200 pounds. One summer, I went on an all-vegetable diet when I was 21. I lost 45 pounds in 3 months, and I've never gained it back. I've gained weight and then lost weight again, but in the work in the fashion industry, which is so stressful, and when I say stressful, it can be everything from a typhoon in Taiwan destroying the factory that you're making the stuff in, to getting ready to ship a store an order and they have no credit and you can't ship them. It's immense stress. So physical health, I think, is very, very important to your well-being. And in addition to that, at least for myself and other people in the fashion industry that I've known over the years, I think that some sort of spiritual foundation is also very, very important. Most people in the apparel industry are Jewish. They're not Christians per se. But I've worked with both Islamic, very devout Muslims. I've worked with ultra-Orthodox Jewish people, Orthodox, conservative, and Reformed, and I've actually worked with a couple of Christians, not that many. But I do think that a spiritual foundation, along as well as keeping yourself in really the best shape that you can, is very important for the mental agility that you need to be able to make, in some cases, split-second decisions.
By the way, I met him at Bible study, okay?
Yeah.
So, this is what's crazy. He swims for not 70 minutes a day. He always tells me I swam 71 minutes today, or 72.
71, 39,
it's never rounded.
70, 16. I have my Timex Ironman watch that my life is guided by.
Okay, now tell them how many Speedos you have.
375.
How about ties?
4,500.
Do you know how many dress shirts?
650. Yeah. And they're not all my label, incidentally. I have plenty of Brioni and Zegna and others high-end stuff, and a couple low-end things. You know, fashion itself has very little to do with price. Fashion is style, and style is something that is inherent. You either have style or you don't. Female models down here used to tell me that they were going out on dates with these very wealthy older guys who had, their waistline was like 44, and they had $5,000 worth of Versace on that they could barely button, and 20 chains around their neck. and
sounds like my friend.
Yeah, and the straight guys are telling me they couldn't get a date because the girls were going out with these old rich guys who had about as much style as a second mortgage, because they wanted them to take them to Bal Harbour and get them a $5,000 Chanel bag. So, at any rate, yeah. So style is inherent. I mean, you either have the style or you develop style over. It has nothing to do with going into the most expensive stores and buying the most expensive product. It's inherent.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I will just end this live, and if I can find a way to post this interview here on Instagram, on YouTube, I will, because my camera, there's just a picture of him and not me. And also, if you're interested in seeing his menswear, you can go to Daniel Dolce, that is DOLCE, Italy.com, and that's where he has all of his clothes. And you can also buy his book on Amazon as well. So, do I have any questions? Everyone's waving at me, but I don't see any questions. Well, we'll wrap this up. If you have any questions in the near future, you can post them below the video or inbox them to me. And if you're still with me, then we'll try and answer those questions, okay?
I'll be here for a while.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me on my first video. I'm going to start a YouTube channel this year. Maybe I could do some editing where you can actually see my face and I don't look like a ghost, but it's worth a try. I wanted you guys more than anything just to feel like you're in the tropics today, in case you're not, you know, here in Miami, because I am going to be leaving Miami on Monday, so I'm wrapping up my last couple days here. But thanks for joining me. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.